Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once again for another episode of College Football Pros. I am your host, as always, Nicholas Valinchek, and I'm joined today by a man who just left me for the last 10 days while he went to Myrtle Beach and had the time of his life. Drew Van Jura, how are we doing today?
I am actually tired from vacation, if that makes sense. I mean, I got no sleep, so it's good to be home.
Well, I'm sorry that your vacation was such a stress on you that you're so tired right now, and I just pounded away at the pavement, working 2 jobs, walking uphill in the snow with no shoes.
That's weird to say in the middle of June or July, August. Where the hell month we're in?
There's still a 17-foot snow pile in Buffalo right now.
That's true. That's
how
weird.
Bad these winters have been. So
it's been real bad.
If we had a bell right now, I would definitely give a 10-bell salute to Roddy Piper.
Yeah, that's very sad. Dusty Rhodes passed away, a month and a half ago now, and now
right.
Roddy, and both of us being wrestling fans is very thoughts and prayers to his family, but man, another good one gone.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird to say, but every time this happens, a little bit of me dies. Yeah. Because these were guys that I idolized when I was young, and Piper, to me, he should get as much, if not more, credit than anyone else for steering wrestling in the direction that it went. Dusty was hugely and wildly influential, and Hogan ultimately was the guy that kind of carried the brand and made the WWF what it was back then.
You're getting sued.
But damn it. But Piper, he was the perfect catalyst. And he was just real, He
was so hateable, and I mean that in the best way possible, because he took that bad guy heel character, and I mean he played it on screen, off screen, where in the bars, in the planes, and he was just so believable, and people just loved to hate him, and people did hate him, and I think that's the best compliment you could give to a wrestler, when they play the bad guy, is that everybody hates you.
Yeah, if you get someone to buy in on that kind of emotional level, you've absolutely done your job. And I have this conversation quite often with people, and I just mentioned this to my girlfriend. Josh Reddick on Friday night when it happened walked to the plate to Piper's theme music. Ronda Rousey dedicated her fight and basically said, "Thanks for the nickname." You don't see that in any other sport. Professional athletes mimic professional wrestlers. Professional wrestlers don't mimic what's going on around them. It's this really unique situation that I've always been kind of captivated by. And people trash wrestling, but there's the potential that it might be the trend-setting entity that transcends all other industries. It's just weird. There's influences. Meek Mill released his whatever that was. That stuff's all garbage anyway. But he released his diss at Drake, laid on the Undertaker's beat. This is real. This is serious. Professional wrestling is still everywhere. It's still viable. It's just amazing to me. But really, no need to talk about that. We're deeply saddened. Drew, do you want to finish anything on Piper real quick?
No, it's very sad to say, and I just want to say one real quick thing about UFC. It's booked just like wrestling, and we can move on.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to move on. I think Dana White should definitely put himself in check and realize that he probably wouldn't have the platform that he has without Vince McMahon and without all of the quote-unquote fake entertainers.
It's UFC MMA is predetermined, just like wrestling. They know going into it who's going to win. They talk in the octagon, in the ring, whatever the hell you want to call it. They talk in there. And I'm very passionate about this because I've heard it on the pay-per-views. I've seen it. It's booked. It's predetermined, and I'll argue that with anybody.
Well, all you had to do was watch any Kimbo Slice fight to realice
Yeah, with him and Ken Shamrock a couple, 2 months ago in that fake-ass fight. Yeah, Dana White. It's just the whole thing pisses me off because literally people talk about, the punching is real in UFC and people get broken noses. Oh, wait, John Cena just broke his nose in the ring and finished the match. So I don't want to hear this about UFC being real. It's all booked and predetermined.
the bottom line is, whether you're in the UFC, whether you're in professional wrestling, you're a tremendous athlete. You're at the pinnacle of what you do, and you are not going to make friends, nor are you a quality person if you have to try to take a jab at what someone else is doing, to try to make yourself look better. I mean, to me, whatever UFC is doing, it's and I'm biased because I'm a wrestling fan, but it's not going to ever amount to what is going on in professional wrestling. So
UFC and MMA has hit its apex, and you'll start to see a decline in it.
Right, and just so they know, their apex didn't hit the mid-'80s apex of the WWF. It didn't hit the mid-'90s apex of the WWE. So at best, they had the third best apex between wrestling, boxing, and mixed martial arts. So congratulations for being third best.
And UFC's biggest star of all time, Brock Lesnar, is a wrestling guy. So,
yeah, there's not much more I want to talk about with that. Getting into college football after 6 minutes of rambling, which we're going to be prone to do repetitively.
Yeah, we do that.
Before we jump into our main subject of the Conference USA today, I think we have to take some time to look at one specific thing that happened in college football this past week, and that was the suspension of Joey Bosa, Jalen Marshall, Dontre Wilson, and Corey Smith to Ohio State. Drew, what do you think of the impact is there?
I don't know if there's going to be, on the offensive side of the ball, a major impact. I really don't. I know Joey Bosa, he's the best defensive lineman in the nation, a top 5 pick if he decides to come out. That's going to be a loss. However, the rest of that defense, Darren Lee, Eli Apple, Vaughn Bell, Raekwon McMillan, I don't see them missing a beat. So maybe they give up one more third down conversion, whatever it might be. I don't see a huge drop in the talent level because they've recruited so well.
They do have very deep threats on both offense and defense at different layers. So Ohio State has one of the better next man up programs in the country, just like you said, due to the fact that they've been able to recruit so well. I'm of the opinion that the offensive suspensions actually may be a little more impactful than a lot of people are giving them credit for, because that leaves you with Michael Thomas, who's absolutely a very strong receiver, but beyond that, you're looking at rookies who you could love Johnny Dixon as much as you want, but he's still a rookie and he's unproven, and Braxton Miller, who he's a great athlete, but that doesn't necessarily mean it translates to success in his transition to H-back.
Yeah, and I do agree with that, and it may have a little bit of impact on the kick return and punt return because Jalen Marshall and Dontre are the kick returning guys. Curtis Samuel can handle that responsibility. Torrance Gibson, true freshman from Florida, can come in and handle those responsibilities. I don't know. Corey Smith was never going to see the field. Never. Dontre Wilson is going to get lost in the shuffle and was lost in the shuffle last year. Jalen Marshall is a very speedy receiver, but with the addition of Braxton Miller, like you said, I don't know. I don't see it. I mean, you still have Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah, I'm not going to discount the fact that they've still got copious amounts of offensive weapons, but, I mean, this is a game. We've talked thus far about how the Ohio State side of this game was going to be and how they're going to be highly motivated and they're going to put up a ridiculous amount of points. But I think it's almost ignorant on our end to completely discount the Virginia Tech perspective where, after Ohio State comes in, runs the table the rest of the season, takes home the national championship, they're kind of like, oh, well, VTech was just a blip. As a program, do you really want to be known as just a blip, or might there be some motivation there to prove that they're not just a blip?
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, but at the same time, Miami beat Virginia Tech last year. So, you had a great win against Ohio State on the road at night, but what did you do with that win? You didn't take that momentum, you didn't do anything with it. So if Virginia Tech would have ran the table, and if they would have won the ACC and lost in the Orange Bowl to somebody or beat somebody in the Orange Bowl, I would have been like, yeah, this game, absolutely, man. You beat Ohio State. You went on that run, but you didn't. You sputtered down the stretch. Your quarterback is it. Yeah, I don't see it. I don't quite agree with that statement.
I'm not a big fan of Virginia Tech, but I'm also not a big fan of just completely writing a team off, especially a team that you performed poorly, being the best way to put it, against the previous year. Look, I totally believe that this is still going to be a huge win for Ohio State in terms of what the final score ends up being, but I just don't think it's fair to say these things will not really have an impact. Of course it's going to have an impact. This is the opening game. The last thing that Ohio State needs is for something like what happened last year to happen again this year. Are they going to have that? Are they going to be able to rebound the same way? I mean, we're talking wild hypotheticals here, and that's really not what I want to do. But this game is an important part of their schedule. It's the first game can set the tone for where you were going. So I just don't think it's something that they or their fans should just look past and just say, nah, it's Virginia Tech, what are they going to do?
25 to 30 is your final margin of victory for Ohio State.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm just saying, like, surprises happen, things happen.
For sure.
I would find it highly unlikely that 2 years in a row the same team is going to beat this Ohio State team. But in my life, I've just learned to say never,
Yeah, that's an old wrestling adage. Never say never.
Right. We just can't seem to kick that.
Nah, dude. We're going to go back to wrestling forever because that's what we know and love, and that's what we grew up on. So,
So with that introduction, I guess the best thing to do now is move on to our subject matter of the day, which is going to be the Conference USA. And it's a fun conference. Look, I'm a huge Marshall fan. Watching Western Kentucky last year was just amazing as well. Louisiana Tech. There's just a lot of programs here that have the ability to put points on the board and are very exciting to watch.
Yeah, this is a conference that you look at top to bottom. They have a lot of interesting offenses, a lot of different offensive schemes. So this is going to be a fun one, just because of the sheer fact you have Western Kentucky, Marshall, and then you have the bottom half with Charlotte and Old Dominion, who are former 1AA powerhouses in Old Dominion and Charlotte. An up and coming program, so it should be interesting on the side of the CUSA here.
So definitely a good place to start in the East would be Charlotte, and they're the new kids on the block. I hope I don't get sued for that. I'm already getting sued for calling the WWE the WWF. But I don't really know too much what to make of teams moving up. I haven't really watched too much FCS. Our familiarity is basically with Youngstown State just because that's our backyard. I try to stay in the loop. North Dakota State's a powerhouse. Appalachian State was playing well before they made the jump. So I don't know how Charlotte was. Were they that big of a team or were they not in the FCS at all?
No, they were. They were middle of the road. FCS opponent. They're just a new team in general. They've only been around for a couple years as a program, so to get this program to the 1A level is very impressive this quickly.
I just don't really see too much for them to do here. I think they might have done well where they were at previously, but taking the jump is going to be a big jump in competition. So Matt Johnson, their quarterback, has some experience. This team seemed to be predicated more on the run than the pass, as he threw for under 2,000 yards last year and totaled on the ground and in the air 14. That's not going to cut it from the guy running your offense in the FBS level.
No, with the level of competition we're going to be facing every week, they've got to take that next step. And a lot of these guys are just, they've been playing Division II teams, in the FCS levels the past couple of years. Now you're jumping up to the FBS playing legitimate teams, obviously the CUSA teams, but then you play Kentucky and Temple. It's like, wow, these guys are very, very legitimate people. And I don't know where they're going to score any points and they're going to give up a ton of points.
I agree. Khalif Phillips had a good year last year. He had over 1,400 yards rushing and 20 scores. That's not going to be possible It's hard to keep our usual format where we're talking about how's the O-line improved, the RBs, the receivers. We can't do that when you're moving up because
we just don't know enough about them.
It's all relative. We do know that they shouldn't be able to come up taking a jump in competition and perform the same way. The production's going to take a hit. The one kid on the team that I kind of liked, just out of the fact that he was responsible for 70% of the receiving production, is Austin Dukes. He hit almost 1,400 yards and 9 scores. Seems to be the playmaker they have. I think in certain situations when this team is facing maybe a poor passing defense, he could be a guy to look at.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I don't know.
It's tough. There's not much you can really say.
Yeah, we can sit here and say, yeah, he's a good matchup, but then again, his offensive line is going to be facing defensive linemen that have been playing together, that have hit the D1 weight rooms, that have just been recruited and all this stuff. And I don't know. And I hate saying this, but Charlotte, if they win a game, I'd be happy if I was a Charlotte fan.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. So moving along, we'll go to Florida Atlantic. In 2014, they had the 92nd ranked passing offense, the 62nd ranked rushing offense, total offensive ranking of 103rd, the 87th ranked passing defense, the 114th ranked rushing defense for an overall defensive ranking of 113. They scored 24 points and they allowed 34.4. What's your take on this Florida Atlantic team?
I actually kind of like them for this year. I'm not saying that they're going to be winning bowl games and top 25 programs, but I think they could be a fun offense to watch. And for the fantasy purposes, early in the season, if their schedule plays out the way it's looking like it's going to, what teams are playing, they could be a fun spread type offense. In a spread, last year they played 4 or 5 different types of spread offenses. The quick pass spread offense, the deep spread pass offense, the spread offense with the running backs and getting involved there. So this team, if they can zone in on, just that quick passing offense, like this team wants to run, they can be a fun team to watch on offense. With Jaquez Johnson at quarterback, he's an athletic guy, has the ability to run, to pass, so should be interesting.
Considering what is going to be lost at the quarterback position in Conference USA, I'd actually say Jaquez Johnson could be one of the better and definitely one of the more exciting signal callers in 2015. He had his moments in 2014. The only problem is they were few and far between. I think in his senior campaign, if he's able to come in anything less than 30 total touchdowns, and we have to mention here that he runs the ball. He's highly athletic, so not all of his production is going to be through the air. He can do it on both ends of the field. So I think that he's definitely the one guy on this team, especially with Lucky Whitehead departing for a potential NFL career. He was their dynamic slot, do-it-all man. I think more of the offense is going to have to be predicated on him.
Yeah, and I agree. With Whitehead and William Dukes graduating last year, this is why I'm excited for this team, because just like you said about his athletic ability, he has the ability to run that zone read as well, which is another type of offense that this team runs. So, if their coaching staff can zone in and really implement that zone read type offense, this team has the potential to put up a lot of points. And they're going to have to with, their defense is going to struggle mightily with their loss of the 3 best tacklers and one of the best tacklers in the nation. So they're going to have to put up a lot of points.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. The running back situation is murky as well. Nobody seemed to really take over last year. The offensive line is going to be a little more experienced, so that's better. I think at the end of the day, it's going to be on Johnson, and 24 points is not going to cut it on the offensive side. And more importantly, this defense gave up almost 35 points last year, and I have no reason to believe that it might not even be worse this year.
Yeah, like I said, they graduated a lot of talent and a lot of high athletic ability on that defensive side of the ball. But if these young kids that got some experience last year, they can take that next step. This defense could be mediocre. But like you said, I can definitely see them taking a huge step back, losing their 3 top guys. I could definitely see them taking a huge step back if they can't figure it out quick.
Right now, I have them pegged as a probably bottom 15 defense, and I don't see anything that makes me feel like they should be any better. Moving on, we'll go to Florida International. In 2014, they were the 115th ranked passing offense, the 107th ranked rushing offense, the 6th worst overall offense in the country. On defense, the story was quite a bit different. They had the 30th ranked passing defense, the 56th ranked rushing defense for an overall defensive ranking of 36th. They scored 23 points and they allowed 24.8. So if I'm Florida International, I'm going to be salty at the fact that I'm holding teams to under 25 points and you can't muster up enough points on offense to let us win ball games. I mean, it's that simple. This team, if the offense can expand and do better, this is a team that is built to actually be relevant in this conference.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of put them on the same level at FAU, meaning that their offense is good enough to put up some points, but their defense, losing their defensive coordinator to Pitt when Narduzzi took that job, is going to be a huge loss to that defense. But on offense, it starts and stops with quarterback Alex Mago. I already pronounced that. I apologize again. He's a guy that he came in early as a freshman last year, took the job, did well with it. He had some struggles as freshman will, but I think this is a guy, they run a quick one back offense. So I'm excited for this kid to see what he can do as a sophomore.
I'm almost wondering if we were looking at the same team, because Mago last year didn't get it done. He had under 1,700 yards passing. To me, that's a joke, right? That is not something by any stretch of the imagination that you can base a team off of. And furthermore, they had 2 running backs that had the exact same amount of rushing yards, almost the same amount of carries. There's a lot of indecision. The only thing on this offensive side of the ball that I like and I care about anything is Jonnu Smith, the tight end. Kid's a monster, and I think his production is going to jump into 4 digits with 10 scores this year. But I think there's improvement. He could even improve 500 yards in his passing, but at the same time, he's still not going to be putting up numbers that you're really going to sit back and say he made a huge difference.
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. I mean, this is a guy. He's a game manager. He's not going to go win you games. He's that single back offense. He's going to get the ball and he's going to hand the ball off. And that's what this team is going to be built on, and this is what this team is. But, I mean, I don't disagree that, the tight end is going to be a huge, huge candidate for a lot of passes, because in that one back offense, that tight end is going to be usually covered up by a linebacker. And with his athletic ability, he can get off those blocks and he can get off that and he could score, 5 to 7 touchdowns. The receiver wise, Dennis Turner, I think he's, going to emerge as a breakout receiver this year. What do you think?
I don't know, but my big question is, how can you let a quarterback be a game manager if they're only scoring 23 points on offense? To me, that lacks sense. Like, if you're ahead in the game, go ahead and manage it, but you can't be a good game manager if you're not putting up enough points for your team to win. That's to me, without any real football background. I didn't play, I've watched it, but it just seems like common sense that you need to score points to win. Am I wrong?
No. I think we're talking the same thing here, only in different ways. I mean, I agree with you that, they've got to put up points, but he is a game manager, meaning he's not out there like Jaquez Johnson from FAU. He's not out there to put up the points. He's out there to manage the game, get the ball to his running backs, get the ball in those quick screens to Turner and the tight ends, and get down the field. Now, if their offensive line struggles, if their running backs aren't very talented, that's one thing. But this kid wasn't brought into FIU to put up, Marcus Mariota type numbers. You know what I mean?
I'm not in disagreement with a lot of what you're saying. The point I'm trying to illustrate is that the coaching staff should potentially say, okay, we need someone there who is going to do more for our offense, because. But
that's not what this coach is doing. That's not his mentality. This isn't Mark Helfrich. This isn't, a guy that does that. This is remember Tressel when he was at Ohio State. He had Craig Krenzel. He's a game manager. He wouldn't really go out there and throw 150 times for 700 yards. He was going to hand the ball off to Mo Claret. He was going to get the ball to the outside to his receivers, Chris Gamble, Michael Jenkins. He's going to go out there and get the ball down the field and score, with Claret or whoever the running backs were at that time besides Claret. But that's what this coach does. He doesn't run 1,000 plays a game. That's not his mentality, is what I'm trying to say.
That's fine. I'm just illustrating the point that you can't, when Ohio State did that, were they putting up more than 23 points per game?
But they had talent, and I don't know.
This is all I'm saying. You can't have that type of mentality without the talent. You can't say Mago's just going to hand the ball off. If I'm the running back, him handing the ball off to me is somewhat irrelevant. It's all about the talent of the players you're with.
I completely agree with that, and this is why the coaching staff has to go out there and get more talented linemen, go out and get more talented receivers, so the play action passes there, go get more talented running backs, so those holes open up there. I mean, this is what a coaching staff does, and I mean, this is, I don't know. I think we're saying the same thing here, but I don't know.
I am just putting my poo-poo stamp on this offense. That's all I'm saying.
So right now, if we brought on Coach Ron Turner from FIU, and if he told you the same thing, that he likes game managers, he likes his defense to get out there, and stop people. I understand he doesn't have the talent to do that, but if that's his philosophy, you would pretty much say he's an idiot.
I mean, what do you want me to say? I'm going to say, okay, congratulations, because your defense is keeping the points off the board, but I don't think you're running the offense competently if your offense is scoring 23 points. Something needs to change. You need to take more chances. You need to do something, because common sense would dictate if you score 23 points and you give up 24.8, you lose more than you win. And if you lose more than you win, you're not a coach for very long.
And that's why we have a lot of coaching turnover.
I don't
disagree, but not everybody can
that's
run.
What he wants to do. I'm not saying he has to install Oregon's offense, but you have to make a decision at some point and say, okay, this kid is not getting it done. He averaged 125, 150 yards a game passing. Perhaps we should look to someone else who might be able to inflate our numbers a little bit more and put more points on the board.
This is what I'm saying. Like, you don't have that at FIU. You're not getting the top recruits. You're not getting the 5-star guys. You're getting a 2-star guy, a 1-star guy from South Florida. I mean, you're getting those guys that aren't going to Miami, that aren't going to Florida State, that aren't going to Ohio State. You have to make it work. And if Alex Mago fell in your lap and he wants to be there, he's an early enrollee freshman. So what does that tell you about the people that are there now as sophomores, juniors, and seniors, quarterback-wise? I don't have their depth chart in front of me, but if this is a kid that comes in and they have uber faith in him and they have the utmost confidence in his ability to run that offense the way that Coach Turner wants to run it, you can't debate that and you can't say it's wrong. I mean, you can maybe say that you maybe need to go get better players, but you can't say his offensive philosophy is wrong.
Okay, let me rephrase my statement then. I'm not going to tell him his offensive philosophy is wrong. I'm just going to tell him he's not going to win many football games. There, that's it. Simple as that. You're not going to win many football games.
And in that case, I completely agree with that statement.
And when you're in the cellar of your division and you're going to hang on to the guy who isn't getting you out of the cellar, you deserve to sit at the bottom.
All right. We're getting nowhere with this.
There's nowhere to get. It's just, to me, if you're the goal of a program, if you're going to have a college football program,
then you turn into the Browns. Then you turn into the Cleveland Browns because you have a new quarterback and a new coach every single year.
The Browns finished 7-9 last year. I'd like to let you know.
I mean, and where are they at? Where'd they go? They go to the playoffs? No, I don't think so. Moving on.
I mean, you have to start somewhere. This has been like a 4 or 5 win team.
Since 99.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm just saying eventually they made it to a point where it looks like the turn could be there. And the coach and Haslam and the ownership groups in the NFL can be blamed just as much as any other position there. If you're not willing to give a team the time to develop, that's where part of the problem is. But you also have to know when you put someone out on the field and they're not producing the results that lead to winning ball games, you have to be willing to say, okay, what I'm trying right now isn't working. Let's try another philosophy. That's all I'm saying. I'm probably going to be wrong with that thought 90 out of 100 times. But the 10 times I'm right, it's going to yield results for the team that would take that in advisement. That's all I'm saying is sometimes you have to be willing to step out of your comfort zone and what are you going to do? Just run into a wall and keep running into a wall but say this is what we do, so just keep running into the wall. No, you're going to look for the doorway and eventually say, hey, how about instead of running into the wall to try to get through into the next room, let's go through the doorway.
If Paul Johnson starts losing at Georgia Tech, are you going to tell Paul Johnson, the master of the triple option, to abandon the triple option and go to the spread offense? No. This is their coaching philosophy, right, wrong, or indifferent. This is why he got hired. He got hired to run that single back offense, that single back spread offense, and to see what he can do with it. And yeah, he needs to recruit better. He needs to get better guys around him. But at the end of the day, you're not going to go tell Urban Meyer or Chip Kelly when he was in college, hey, get away from the spread. It's not working. The spread didn't always work.
It's not necessarily that, but you might want to try another body in there instead of just having the same guy go out there and try the same thing over and over again. It happens all the time in many other schools, many other professional organizations, where a guy might be the guy who you thought was going to be the best, and he might have started for you that year, but you gave in to someone else and found out, oh, look, this guy over here does all right. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that this guy's coaching philosophy is incompetent. I'm just saying that maybe the person he has at the position is not as competent as someone else might be, and if you just keep holding on to that person and don't give someone else an opportunity in game, I could give a crap about practices. I don't care how somebody does when you don't have pads on. I don't care how good somebody looks when you're scrimmaging. There is nothing that is the equivalent to in-game action against an opposing team.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, but
so that's all I'm saying. You have spring camp, you do the best you can, and if the kid who comes out of spring camp isn't working in the middle of the season and you're in the basement, you might want to consider giving a look to somebody else, because if that person isn't getting it done, you want to try to find someone who's going to. I think we're speaking some of the same language. You're kind of taking it as I'm personally attacking the coach and saying his specific style of play, whereas I'm just saying sometimes you might just have to look somewhere else. You might have to grab someone else on your team and say, put the helmet on, go out there, let's see what you can do instead.
I think we both can agree that this team is going to give up a lot of points.
What team?
Florida International.
I don't think so. I think their defense is good.
I mean, they have a new defensive coordinator. I mean, you talk about, changing guys, changing people. I mean, this is a new guy coming in, so I think they're going to struggle as well. I mean, they lost some talented people there, and especially their defensive coordinator going to Pitt with Narduzzi. I think they're going to struggle. If
we're going to start talking about losing important pieces of your offense, that's a perfect segue into the thundering herd of Marshall, who in 2014 had the 18th ranked passing offense, the 8th ranked rushing offense, the 2nd overall offense in the country, the 24th ranked passing defense, the 55th ranked rushing defense, and the 32nd ranked overall defense. They scored 45.6 points, which I think is 3rd or 4th in the country, and they allowed 21 points. But the big story here is their all-time leading passer, and Rakeem Cato, is no longer with the team. Last year's leading receiver, Tommy Schuler, is no longer with the team. Those are some pretty big shoes to fill.
Yeah, it is. And if Michael Birdsong can come in, he's a transfer from James Madison coming up. So if he can take the starting job, I don't know if they've named one yet as of we're recording this. I'm not sure. Have you read?
I've heard Birdsong, but I don't think anything has been officially announced.
Right. I mean, he's 6'5", 242. I mean, that's huge for a quarterback. He's coming in from James Madison, who's an FCS school. So can he come to the Division I level and make a huge impact? I don't know. But, this is a team that has a ton of weapons, even returning on offense with Devon Johnson at running back, Remy Watson at running back. So those are two guys that you can hand the ball off, whatever offensive scheme you want to run, and, have confidence that they're going to take the ball all the way every time. And receiver-wise, Angelo Jean-Louis, breakout year.
Yeah, I like Deontay McManus and Devontae Allen as well. I expect Devin Johnson to be the focus of this offense right now. I feel like when you're turning over a new quarterback, it's more often than not probably going to be easier to rely on your running back, especially early, to kind of carry the load while the quarterback and receivers are getting used to each other. I think overall this team is not going to produce off, like, this isn't going to be the number 2 overall offense in the country next year.
I agree, but I do think Johnson can break 20 touchdowns. I really do.
I agree. I've heard a lot of talk where they don't think his numbers are sustainable, and I'm just like, maybe because he had such a good year, in theory they shouldn't be, but dude, their main 2 playmakers other than him are gone. Like, they're going to have to rely on him, and he could put up for the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season, he could be sitting at 1,100 yards at that point. So, I think he's going to do just fine. The biggest issue here with Marshall is they have incredibly inflated defensive numbers because they, for the second year in a row, have the weakest schedule in the entire country.
Yeah, I mean, Chuck Yeater took in defensive overall, and now they were number 18 last year, I believe you said. So they're good, but I agree that they play a weak schedule and they're uber talented on defense. So I think they might take a step back, and that's not saying that they're going to lose a lot of games, but I think those numbers come down a little bit.
There's no way they don't. They have to come down, and I think that there is one team specifically that could challenge for the Eastern Conference, the Eastern Division title. It's not Middle Tennessee, though, where we're going next, who had the 76th ranked passing offense, the 32nd ranked rushing offense, the 46th ranked overall offense, the 114th ranked passing defense, the 82nd ranked rushing defense, the 108th ranked overall defense. They scored 31.6 points, and they allowed 31.5. So that's a really scary situation that they're in.
Yeah, and an interesting stat about them, they were bowl eligible last year, but were not invited. They were one of the few teams that were actually eligible that didn't get in. So that might be a little chip on the shoulder to come back for this season. But they only return, 13 starters on both sides of the ball. So experience might be an issue, some depth issues, but they got a dual threat quarterback in Austin Grammer. So we're really excited to see what he can do with this offense coming in this year.
I actually think that Brent Stockstill could be a threat to him.
Why? Because he's the coach's son?
Yes. And he reportedly knows the offense a little better, which would make sense.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so we'll see. I think that's going to be a legitimate battle. I don't know. I don't think they've named Grammer the starter yet.
No.
The O-line does return 4 starters, and this is coach talk, I'm sure, so take this with a grain of salt, but it projects to be bigger and badder than ever before. So, there's that. They lose their top running back. Shane Tucker, Jordan Parker look like they'll kind of share the load here. They're receiving – the whole offense almost seems like it's just by committee, like nobody really jumps out.
Yeah, it's going to be 3 guys, 3-headed attack. So it's going to be, a fantasy nightmare. But, if they win games, I guess you just maybe roll a dice with one of them and try to get lucky. I don't know.
That would be my thought. The defense was a mess in 2014. I think it'll still be suspect. I think they'll finish right around the 100 overall mark. Baby steps. When for the most part, unless there's a seriously strong recruiting class, for the most part, you're not going to see any immense jumps in teams. There's very few times you're going to have light and day situations.
No, I absolutely agree. And they return, their linebacking core is pretty solid, led by T.T. Barber. So they're going to be strong up the middle with the linebackers. But I just have issues with the rest of the defensive line. And, the safety coming back, Kevin Birds, he has 15 career picks, so he knows how to get to the ball and make those plays, but the rest of the defense is going to be an issue to me.
Yeah, speaking of another team with a questionable defense, we will move on to Old Dominion. 2014 had the 16th ranked passing offense, the 86th ranked rushing offense, for an overall offensive ranking of 37th. The passing defense was ranked 67th, the rushing defense 115th, for an overall defensive ranking of 107. They scored 32.7 points, and they allowed 38. That's bad.
Yeah, and it's also bad that they lost their quarterback, Tyler Heineke. These names are hard. So. We need a phonetic dictionary over here.
They should mandatorily have to change to Johnson or Smith or
yeah.
something, just for us, just so we're able to pronounce them.
Exactly. But this guy is 4-year starter, won the Walter Payton Award a couple years ago, which is the FCS Heisman Trophy. Obviously, they moved up since, so he's gone. I'm hearing that redshirt freshman Schuler Bentley is gonna be the guy tagged to play. I don't know. He's coming in. He's got a good arm. He's high football IQ, but I don't know. This team might struggle mightily.
I've also seen Virginia transfer Grayson Lambert tagged as potentially a candidate to start. They'll have weapons. The offensive line's coming back with a lot of starts. Some good transfers coming in, and that should make them stronger. Ray Lowry had a weird year. He didn't rush for over 1,000 yards, but he actually scored quite a few touchdowns. I think he was 16 or somewhere there. Their leading receiver, Antonio Vaughn, is gone, and that did rhyme for people who are keeping track. Zach Pascal and Melvin Vaughn.
That would be awesome if they had Melvin. Dude, they would be so pumped right now if they had Gordon.
Yeah, they would be exceedingly excited. There's no question. But Melvin Vaughn is no relation to Antonio. He will be, he and Pascal will be the top two receivers. I think they could both crack 1,000 yards in this offense, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, depending on who the quarterback is, I really like Pascal at the receiver spot. He's got good hands, good route runner, so I think he could be the guy, the number one guy out there.
Yeah, the defense, which has been the theme thus far, is very bad. So I expect them, even though they will be increasing experience, their increasing experience of guys who allowed 38 points last year.
Yeah, they gave up 56 to Marshall and 66 to Western Kentucky.
Right, so
they have some experience. That's a plus.
They know how to get burned.
Yeah, so I don't know.
We just did it.
Yeah.
The final team who I think is the most likely to challenge Marshall would be Western Kentucky. They had the second-ranked passing offense in 2014, 69th ranked rushing offense, the fourth overall offense, the fifth worst passing defense, the 113th ranked rushing defense, the sixth worst overall defense. They scored the sixth most points at 44.4, and they gave up the fifth most at 39.6. So this is a team that is just everywhere.
Yeah, they're going to put
scoring on them, scoring against them, scoring for them.
They're going to put up a ton of points on offense. I mean, Brandon Daugherty back for what seems like his 20th year. I mean, his sixth season. That's kind of rare. But, he's back with Leon Allen, Dangerfield at the receiver spot. This team's going to put up 50 points a game. Don't you agree?
They have an embarrassment of riches. I mean, just looking, Brandon Daugherty, could he put up 5,050? Yes. There's no reason to doubt he could not do that. Leon Allen hit 350 yards in one game last year. That's a huge game. He's extremely talented, and the scariest part is Anthony Wales behind him is very talented as well. And they lose their third and fifth receivers from last year, which were Willie McNeil and tight end Mitchell Henry, and still have Jared Dangerfield, Tawan Taylor, Antoine Grant, and Tyler Higbee at the tight end position. I mean, this is just ridiculous that a team can have this many weapons.
Yeah, and in a conference like the CUSA where the bottom half of the conference is very, very, very bad. So this team literally might put up average 60 points a game. Honest to God, I could see it happening.
I could too, and the defense is just going to be as bad as it has been.
Yeah, I don't know where they got a couple kids from UAB to transfer in. So obviously they know the conference. And they know how to play Division I football, but man, they got to make up a lot of ground.
If you have to pick a winner in this division, who do you pick?
It's Western Kentucky. With the talent they have coming back, I don't see Marshall, who I have coming in second. I don't see Marshall giving them a game, to be very honest with you.
I try to go away from the norm, but I'm going to stick with Marshall, and my main reason is Western Kentucky's defense is just too bad.
It's going to be a shootout. I mean, we can agree to that. It'll be a shootout game.
I do think that. But if anyone disagrees with you, Drew, where can they find you?
They can find me on Twitter at CFBProsDrew. And where can they find you, Nick?
Well, they can find me on Facebook at College Football Pros, on Twitter at CFBPros, and on the World Wide Web at CFBPros.com. We will see you next time when we finish up the Conference USA. We will see you then.